In this slidecast, we're going to look at why it's essential to have a shared language when discussing business models. Here's an exercise I do at workshops and keynotes, conferences throughout the world. We're not going to do it together because it's mainly for people who don't yet know the business model canvas. I ask them a simple question. What is a business model? And then I ask them to write down your definition. Now, what do you think the result is? There's an image from Christian history that represents this pretty well. It's the Tower of Babel. So the story here is that people wanted to create a tower that would go all the way to heaven. God was afraid and he came down and created languages so people couldn't build this tower anymore. And this is exactly what you get when people speak about business models, value propositions. They don't have a shared language. Now, what happens when you lack a shared language? Let's watch a little advertising video that we did for a conference around business tools last year. This is what happens.
Blah, 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 blah. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah.
Have you ever been in a meeting like this? Well, how does it look like when people discuss business models without a shared language? So you probably have the smartest people sitting around the table having a meeting, and then the conversation starts. So maybe the boss starts, hey, the world is changing. We urgently need to reinvent our business model. Then it's the first person's turn. Yeah, services are the way to go. Then somebody else says, the numbers show we should grow in emerging markets. Then somebody else says, well, what about that new technology we've looked into? Couldn't that be an interesting thing? And then the boss says, hey, I actually know the right person we should hire regarding that technology. And on goes the conversation. And 3 hours later, what do you have? People still talking, not producing great results, blah, 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 blah. Now, this happens not because people aren't smart, but it happens because we don't use the right business tools. Now, do you know how you call this phenomena? There's actually a word for this phenomena. It's called blah, blah, blah. A friend of mine, Dan Rome, wrote a book called Blah, 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 What to Do When Words Don't Work. And this is exactly what's happening when we speak about business models, strategies, and value propositions. We could make these things much clearer if we use the picture or a visual language, and that's what we're going to do throughout the course. So what I want us to do now is leave the land of blah, blah, blah behind us and enter the land of visual tools. So the first tool we're going to look at is, of course, the business model canvas. Now, this is going to allow us to enhance the conversations that we already have and create business models in a very different way. Now, where did this tool come from? It didn't just fall from the sky. It actually came from a PhD dissertation that I did with Yves Pigneur, who was my PhD supervisor. And when we started practicing this in the field, we saw that people were very interested, and we wrote the book together with a core team and 470 people around the world called Business Model Generation. And in this course, we're going to go beyond business model generation and integrate a lot of the things that we've learned over the last couple of years. So, I want you to leave the land of blah, blah, blah behind you and enter the world of business tools. Class dismissed.